here we go. So I'm going to quickly explain Horrorfell's moves, starting off the regular cleaver hit. It's going to deal 25, and yeah, with Rage, it's going to move up to exactly 40, and you're going to get a speed boost. Rage lasts on Horrorfell for 12 seconds, and because range damage is basically useless in this meta, it is impossible to approach Horrorfell without being in melee range. If he can hit you, you can hit him, but that means you also, it applies in both directions. These cleavers deal a grand total of 25 or 35 total if they hit someone. If you land both of them, they only deal 55. The bear trap does 15 damage. Any attack that applies bleeding will deal 10 bleed damage. And these traps last for 30 seconds. Well, roughly 30. Might be 29. They cost 6 stamina and have a cooldown of 5 seconds, which means you can effectively just place down a bunch, and if they get trapped there, you can get a free set of 40 damage. Now that I've explained all that information about Horrorfell, allow me to kill these people and get to another match so I can go further in detail. Now let's go ahead and continue. And let's assume really quick that people are using the best damaging weapon and the soul that provides extra damage, so Bravery and Killer's Knife. That would require a grand total of 10 hits to kill the Horrorfell, being 180 damage per hit. That being said, it takes roughly 3 hits for Horrorfell to kill a foe, which would mean that they would actually have, the opposing team would have a collective health of 9, which would be in Horrorfell's favor despite having 3 coordinated foes. And also, Killer's Knife is generally regarded as an ineffective weapon, but even if you have a high opinion of it, the poor odds are nothing to be too big on, especially because if they use their dash, you can drop this down, they'll dash right into it. Let's continue on though. What exactly would you do if they use Killer's Knife and Determination? Suddenly, they have a total of 6 health each for a total of 18. These are much better odds against the Horrorfell that will now only have 12 health, as opposed to their previous 10 health. So sure, those are some decent odds. But how often do you have 3 people on your team that are running something like that? Probably not very often. And again, if you don't have a high opinion of Killer's Knife, you would probably believe that wouldn't help you much. Because you'd believe that that wouldn't help you much, you'd probably use a weapon with a little less damage, and less damage means more health for Horrorfell, though you might be more comfortable in your matchup. And if you don't have the teammates that have Determination and a good weapon, suddenly Horrorfell has more health when it comes to that person hitting them, on top of the fact that you have less damage to actually be able to take as a team. So, the Horrorfell against a group of 3 that is prepared certainly sounds possible, though again, it depends on what will actually happen. Horrorfell can maintain about 5 traps constantly without being low on stamina. And if someone steps on one, they effectively will lose way too much health. What do you do though if the person you're fighting doesn't have those? If you're just facing one Determination user with a decent weapon, suddenly that person has to land, let's say they're using Outer Tail Chara, they're going to have to land, 15 hits on someone who just needs to land 6? Not a very fair matchup for the player at all. And in the case of 2, if they're both using Killer's Knife, both sides would actually only need to land 12 hits to beat the other. But good luck actually landing all those hits, because again, it's a difficult matchup to be sure. And if you take off Killer's Knife, suddenly your 2v1 is in Horrorfell's favor health-wise. So I think I have illustrated these strengths of Horrorfell and why the character could be seen as problematic. Infinite trap usage that won't cost them any damage to their stamina, along with the fact that they can do well in any matchup besides facing 3 good players. This is of course assuming the Horrorfell is also good enough to pull it off. A bad player isn't going to be used for my reference because if they aren't good at the game, then depending on how bad they are, they might even lose to Littletail. I hope that makes sense.